All right, so I want to welcome you to the luncheon. I'm going to introduce our Children's Guardian Fund Board Chair, Hal Headley.
All right. And I know a lot of you know Wendy, and I can promise you, you wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Wendy and her incredible committee. So it's all about celebrating the children. And I've got to tell you, as I start my little talk, doesn't happen anymore, but 28 years ago, as circuit director at the time for Guardian Ad Litem, one of the guardians was out of town, and so staff covers for them as best we can. Went to see a little 9-year-old in foster care, and as I was leaving, he turned to me and he said, "You know what's wrong with foster care?" And I said, "No, what?" And he said, "They're their toys." Well, you know what? We've got toys for them now. They don't any longer have that situation. We help the foster parents to make sure there are plenty of toys. So as you leave here today, think about that kid and remember, that was 28 years ago. We're doing a lot better now. They no longer have to go, "Gee, I wonder if I've got any toys." So we're doing so much better. I'm so proud of that. And maybe that's really what Children's Guardian Fund is all about, making sure these kids have what other kids have. So please keep in mind, this is the Children's Guardian Fund Advocate of the Year and fundraising luncheon. I'm going to emphasize that, and Wendy will remind you even better later. And I am Dr. Hal Headley, and I have the honor of recently being given a 2-year term as president of this incredible organization. My first board meeting, I think they thought I needed dental work. My mouth was so wide open when they said, "Oh, we raise $200,000 a year for children in foster care, protective services, out-of-home care in this circuit, $200,000. And guess what? Now we're going to shoot for 300. Why not? Okay. So moving right along. It's really difficult for me to stand here because I'm following two incredible presidents of this organization, Alan Quinby and Jasmine McClandish, and they are incredible people, and it's really hard to keep up with people like that. I'll do the best I can. So, first thing I want to do is recognize and ask our board, Children's Guardian Fund, and our advisory board and our staff, would you real quickly just stand and be recognized? The board of Children's Guardian Fund, advisory board, and staff. Now you see why I'm smiling. This job is a piece of cake with that kind of help. As an aside, we're so excited. 2 of our board members are now judges. Judge Walker and Judge Malucci. How about that? So you don't have to join our board to be a judge, but it helps. Okay. In this room right now, as I look around, there are 350 caring people. You're here because you care. You're all busy. I know a lot of you are professionals and you've got things you've got to do today, so we'll keep rolling. But you are here because you care, and that's really what it's all about. And so you're going to help us make sure that all of our kids soar, and they soar high. There are really 5 reasons why you need to continue to be a Children's Guardian Fund groupie, okay? And you need to learn all 5. You ready? Number 1. Oops, let's make that 1,000 reasons. There are 1,000 children right now in the 12th Judicial Circuit of Florida, and that's Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto. That's our area. There are 1,000 children that are in care, and that means they're not with their family of origin. They may be with a relative placement, foster care. Some of them may even be in a facility right now. And that's tragic, but we have a solution. And with your help, we can really help those 1,000 kids. But keep in mind, 1,000. Reason number 2, you need to be a part of this wonderful organization. And if you already are, keep it up. And if you aren't quite, get on board. Is with Children's Guardian Fund, you really get to hang out with some impressive people. Let me just name a few. Senators. We've got Senator Bob Johnson, who's a big supporter. Senator Nancy Dietert, who was our keynote speaker last year. You'll hear from Senator Bill Galvano very shortly. So we almost have a quorum here for Tallahassee. And also, some of the judges that back us tremendously. Judge Durand Adams is on our advisory board. Judge Scott Brownell, who I've known for many, many years. As an aside, Scott and my daughter both are named Maggie, and they both played basketball. There was one difference. His daughter was 6'3", and ours was 5'2". But we beat him that night, and Scott said, yeah, you did, that night. So anyway, now, the other judge, and I'm going to say something a little bit extra about him in just a moment, is David Dinkin, and he's here. Judge Lee Hayworth sends his regret, and somebody said it's really impressive when a busy judge takes the time to call the office and say he can't be here. He's at a training, and I don't think anybody in this room doubts that Judge Lee Hayworth backs the children and the Children's Guardian Fund to the hilt. We're also fortunate to have Magistrate Laura Hale here, and MSO Major Connie Shingledecker, who's a longtime supporter and has led the way for law enforcement to be a major player in the investigation of child abuse. And Commissioner Suzanne Atwell is on our advisory board. Are we lucky or what? So this is an impressive group that you get to hang out with today. Reason number 3 to support Children's Guardian Fund, we have found that most of these kids in foster care just need a boost. When you hear them speak today, one of the things you're going to find out is they don't have any time for pity. So don't even go there. But some of them do need a boost. They need some help. I'll give you a few examples. Children's Guardian Fund gives about 100 scholarships a year for summer camps. And it's a variety of camps. We recently approved a laptop for one of the young girls in foster care who was getting ready to go to college, and she needed a laptop, and her foster parents just really simply couldn't afford it. So we bought it. I thought that was pretty cool. We bought an airline ticket for a young child whose only real close member of his family of origin was his grandmother, who passed away in Ohio, and he really wanted to go to the funeral, and we were able to buy an airline ticket so he could go. And I thought that was really cool. And I got to tell you, when you sit on our board, we say yes. That's our number. If we say no, it's very rare, and probably it's because we think somebody else should fund it. And if they say no, then I shouldn't tell you this, but we go on and say yes anyway. The other thing that we do is we provide stylish clothing to the kids. And you might sit there and go, what does he mean? Well, let me give you an example. Years ago, one of the girls from Bradenton turned to me and she said, thanks a lot. And it was a pretty horrendous case. And she said, you took me out of my school, you took me out of my church, you took me off my basketball team, and you put me in Kmart clothes. Do you think maybe they know I'm a foster kid? And I was like, wow. And in defense of the foster parents, I don't know what the number is now. What is it, 200, 300 they get for clothes, period? Many of these children, and our judges know this, many of them, when they leave a tough environment, they leave with the clothes on their back. And maybe the families won't give them anything in addition to that. So, moving right along, let's talk about a couple of other things that we do. This may not sound so exciting to you, but it is to them. We now have, thanks to Senator Dieter's bill and thanks to the Manatee Community Foundation, we have a driver's ed program. We found out at one point only 9% of the foster kids were getting driver's license. And trust me, that's a sign of independence. It's an opportunity to get a job. It's an opportunity to get a life. So we now have, and one of our staff members, Jan, does a great job, and it's very exciting. And we have some pretty tough rules for them to get into the program, but that's another opportunity. And then I'll only mention one more, and I could go on and on and on, and I'd love to. We now have a summer jobs program. One of our board members, Mark Sharp, said, I think we can do this. And guess what he found out? He found out there are people like Philip Tavel and Mark Richmond who said, you know, we've got companies, it might be Children First, and it might be furniture galleries. If you ever need furniture, I'll tell you where to go. But anyway, and they gave a couple of our foster kids, and I'll say our because we feel like they're part of us, they gave them summer jobs, and that's more than a paycheck. It's an opportunity. Okay, reason number 4 is I get to brag a little bit about my table, and I'm going to brag about 2 tables, my table and Grazie's table, because I guess I go way back with Grazie. Is that okay to say it that way, Grazie? And, you know, I'll tell you something, sitting beside her, and everybody knows that she's been the heart and soul of child protection for a long, long time. She's kept me and Doug Staley in line as best she can, which I really love. And Doug is the CEO of Child Protection, and he's the man who simply says, guess what, folks? One abused child is too many, not acceptable. None is the only number we'll ever accept. And until we get to none, we haven't done our job. Isn't that cool? And he takes no prisoners on that. Hey, I've got more though. Let me brag about my table for a minute. Senator Nancy Dieter. Need I say more? Need I say more? Her aide, G.D. Kerr, and we know if you want to get something done, talk to the aide, right? And we go way back. Golly, I got to quit saying that. A couple of other people at our table that I'm really proud of. One of them is Kevin McKinney, who, when he retired from the coalition, Judge Hayworth put his hands on his hips, shook his head, and said, Hal, he knows more about foster care than anybody in the region. We can't do without him. That was cool, wasn't it, Kevin? And it was true. Couple of more people. Judge David Dinkin, I have to tell you, I was walking down the hall one day with then court administrator Jack Byers, and I said, we need a program attorney, just part-time. And he goes, get him. And I said, really? And David said, I'll do it. Let me tell you about this man. He was part-time. He was an awesome advocate. He did everything from baby swap cases to whatever. He never said no. I called him at all hours. I don't think he hardly ever sent us a bill either. I guess we still owe you, Judge. But anyway, thank you, David Dinkin, for, and keep in mind, Guardian ad litem staff, you got to hear this, it was me, David, 2 part-time people. But we didn't have as many guardians, and we had to turn down a lot of cases, which the judges didn't like and we didn't like. So, a couple of more people at my table. You're going to hear about some of them later. Okay, there's a really cool family sitting at my table. And then 2 more, and one of them said I couldn't mention her, but I'm going to mention her anyway, and that's my wife, Luann. Recently retired, 40-plus years of pre-K, kindergarten, kids with varying exceptionalities, kids that have problems I can't pronounce or understand. She always said at her school, give me those kids. So that's pretty cool. And then the world champion powerlifter, and that's true, last year in Orlando, Florida, Tim Headley, going to Disney this weekend to defend his state title. And I got to tell you, when he beat the folks from Costa Rica, every time he saw them around the hotel, he would say to the Costa Rican team, bonjour. And they would look at him like, no say. But anyway, it was all Tim Headley. And then sitting beside Tim is a very good friend of ours and a wonderful SPD officer, Mark Opitz, who does so much for the community. And one of the things he does that we like is he puts together the Torch Run, which raises funds for Special Olympics. And so when they run down the road and you have to stop for them, that's Mark and his team. Thank you, Mark. And I could brag on and on, but let me go right to the next group. We know at Children's Guardian Fund, if we don't have a great guardian ad litem program, we're spinning our wheels, and we can only do so much. Well, we have one. We have an enlightened leader now for our 12th Circuit Administrator, and that's Kathy Elliott. And I'm going to ask her to come up right now because we have something for her. And actually, it's not for her, because she'll tell you it's not for her. And Tim, you can come up. If you all stand right here. We've got something really cool. Let me show you what it is. Now, wait a minute. Now, okay, Tim will hold it up. Now, Grazie and Doug will recognize this. They have the bigger edition. Al Konechny, a 99-year-old now Disney legend who has a picture of himself and Walt on his wristwatch. He gave this. He really, really cares about the children. And he told me, he said, what he did, he sold it to a friend of mine who said, please give it to Guardian ad litem today. And that friend is a friend of myself and Mark's, just got out of the hospital, teaches at Oak Park. I can't identify him, but I came close. And he really wanted them to have this, and you can do whatever you want with it, put it in whatever office or whatever. But it's the Disney characters, and again, Al Konechny, Disney legend. So thank you, Kathy. And while she's up here, will the Guardian ad litem staff please stand, because I know you all never rest, right, Kathy? They never rest. Thank you. And we have 2 other key people that 3 other key people I'd really like to mention. We do have awesome leadership now with Alan Abramowitz, and he's our statewide leader, and he's ably assisted by Frank Prado and Chuck Orchowski. So thank you, men. I recently went to a training at the summit, in Orlando, and it really was powerful. And what's going on in the 20 judicial circuits in Florida is unprecedented for guardian ad litem. And we're getting to the point, we're getting close to representing 100% of the children. And that's, I think, the goal. And it's a tough one, because you're talking every inch of the state of Florida, every child that comes into care. So did I leave anybody out? Are there, maybe I did. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Maybe I'll mention some other folks. We have some other elected officials present today. Did I leave any out? Did I forget any elected? If I did, we're glad you were elected. And by the way, I cheated. I actually have 6 reasons, and here's my 6th and final reason why you need to be one of our groupies for Children's Guardian Fund and help the kids soar. And it's 1,000 infants, children, and young adults. And I have to say it again. One of my professors at UVA always said, tell them and then tell them again. So with your help, we can help these kids soar. I promise you we won't ask you to play in our golf tournament. We don't have one. We won't ask you to come to our barbecue, even though we should, but we don't have one. But we will ask you today, when Wendy comes back to talk to you, we'll ask you to, as one person said, don't give till it hurts, give till it feels good. So jump on the balloon, grab a hold, celebrate the children, and thank you for being here and helping Children's Guardian Fund. We've got it made now, don't we? Have a great lunch.
Senator Galvano was first elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2002, where he served with distinction until term limits caught up with him in 2010. His election to the state Senate in 2012 enables him to continue the good work for which he had developed a strong reputation, including the crucial issue of early childhood education, the welfare of foster children, child protection, and legal services. His service in the Florida House included the chairmanship of the Future of Florida's Families Committee, and also of the Healthy Families Committee, which no doubt led to his receiving the Healthy Families Florida Leadership Award among his very long list of awards and recognitions. In light of the mission of the Children's Guardian Fund, we're particularly delighted that Senator Galvano will speak on the new Council for Kids law that he recently sponsored. This law ensures legal representation for foster care children and other children in the legal custody of the Florida Department of Children and Families, including those with disabilities and special needs. Senator Galvano's bill was signed into law by Governor Scott just last June, so it's my special honor to introduce our speaker today, Senator Galvano.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I have to adjust this somewhere between Hal and Judge Brownell. Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here, and that introduction was phenomenal, and of course the dignitaries in the room. It almost reminds me of when I was running for office for the first time, and I was out doing door-to-doors, which many of you have either encountered a politician at your door, or some of you have actually done them yourself. And one day I was out doing some door-to-doors, and I was walking up to a house, and an older man opened the door, came out, and he said, "Stop, hold it right there. Put your literature away, don't say a word. I've decided to vote for you, and all you can do now is screw it up." So I hope after all that, I don't come up here and screw it up. And please enjoy your lunch. I know it's being served. As a member of the Florida legislature, I'm very used to speaking when no one's listening. Before I go on, I want to recognize a couple of people who've been very influential in my political career. One is Senator Bob Johnson. Bob, it's great to see you. He has been a mentor through the years. He's helped me as I began my political career and continues to do so. The other one is someone that needs no introduction in this group. That's Senator Nancy Dietert. Senator Dietert is truly an advocate's advocate. I have learned so much from her about the issues that are important to the people in this room. She has been an inspiration to me. I look forward, Nancy, to our continued work together And it's an honor to speak about these issues when you're in the room, because it really should be the other way around. But Nancy, I'd like to give you a round of applause. And thank all of you for what you do. Your advocacy is so important. It really, really is. We need to hear it in Tallahassee. You know, I've been in the process now 12 years. I know I don't look that old, but I've learned a lot of things about the process, and one of the most important things that I've learned is that sometimes what the process represents in Tallahassee is not what should be represented back home. That so often the issues that we are led to believe are so very important have simply been fabricated or exaggerated by special interest or industry. And that's not a criticism, because you have to have those types of discussions to run a state and to be able to move policy forward. But the real issues sometimes get overlooked. And that can't happen. And when you all advocate, and when you send messages, and when you raise money like you're doing, or when you have luncheons like this, it makes a difference. Because politics in Florida and in America properly should come from the ground up, not the top down. You know, one of my heroes is Abraham Lincoln. Many people have Lincoln as a hero. It's not so unique. But there are many aspects to Abraham Lincoln as a man, and certainly as a politician, and as our president. But one of the things that I admire the most is that he was able to take something complex and make it so simple, yet so eloquent. Many of you have read letters and writings of his through the years that you read not for so much for the subject matter, but just for the way that he has put it together. But he articulated a role, if you will, for government. And it's one that I try to abide by. I know Senator Dieter, I watch her, she lives by it. But it's that the role of government should be to do for those who can't do for themselves, or do well for themselves. And that's such a simple rule, or simple theory to apply, but so often gets overlooked. But when you back up and you realize that most of what we're doing in Tallahassee is prioritizing dollars, and you apply that rule, then it becomes easy to see who should be at the top of the list. The disabled, the elderly, the mentally ill, and most certainly our children. And there's a second step to that rule that was later articulated by Lyndon Johnson's father. And he said that government should be there to help those who get tangled in the tentacles of life. And so often, the children that you all advocate for, and that we try to be good stewards for in Tallahassee, are exactly that, getting caught in the tentacles of life. And that's why we have to be vigilant. That's why we have to continue to watch every step of the way to make sure that we are continuing to untangle these young people from the tentacles and continuing to prioritize them. And sometimes it's so basic. It's so basic, like the driver's license issue that Senator Dieter addressed, or making that comparison to someone who is not in foster care to someone that is in foster care. The other aspect of my service has been to try to take those simple rules, look at who are the beneficiaries of those rules should be, and make sure we're doing it efficiently. Make sure that as a government, we are doing it in the best way possible. And it's led me on some interesting journeys, one of which was the creation of the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, later the Office of Child Protection. And that was one in which we realized that we had so many agencies dealing with the same issues, overlapping, and some, in fact, having to sue each other to get information. And it was a labyrinth. It was an absolute labyrinth. All well-intended, but at the end of the day, a complex matrix that was hard to negotiate. And so we went around the state in the committee. I was chairing the committee. I think, Nancy, you had it immediately before. And we looked at what some of the best practices were and how to best be efficient, and then tried to put it together. And I saw Connie Shingeldecker was here today. She was a great part of that process, and I really appreciated the input that she gave. But at the end of the day, we were able to create, at least at that time, signed under Governor Bush, the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, and then later the Office of Child Protection, which frankly still needs to be revisited and reinvigorated, because every year as time goes, policies change, priorities change, and the politicians change. About the same time, the other aspect that was something that we all worked on that I thought was vitally important was also the health care for children. And the Florida Kid Care program and Healthy Kids. That, to me, was another area where we had just a tremendous amount of red tape and not the most efficient way to accomplish it. And so with Nancy's help and the help of the legislature, we were able to make improvements there. I termed out of the House in 2010. When I left the House, there's Connie. When I left the House, I was chairman of Rules and Calendar, and I enjoyed that position very much because we were able to work on these very issues. I had a 2-year hiatus and then was able to come back into the Senate in 2012. And being back in the Senate and working with Nancy and others, it was easy to pick up and begin again on the issues that you advocate for. And one of those issues was something that we accomplished this last session that I'm very pleased we were able to accomplish. And that involved having the attorney ad litem's for the disabled kids and children who were victims of human trafficking in the dependency. Thank you very much. I'm going on too long. In the dependency process, I'm a lawyer. See Tom Schultz here, he knows I'm a lawyer. We've had cases together. I've been practicing for 20 years. A courtroom is a scary place, even as a lawyer. It's even scarier when you have like Judge Brownell in there or Judge Adams in there. At least it was for me as a young lawyer. That's why I went into politics. But you take a child and put a child in that situation and think of how overcoming it could be. And then you add to that a child who has special needs, or someone who has been through horrible circumstance, or someone who is in a residential program. And how complex the system becomes when you add those aspects to the dependency proceeding. And it became very clear to me that having an attorney ad litem is a good thing. It's something that would help cut through some of these issues and make a better, clearer, more understandable path for the child. This is especially true when the law already requires that the parents have an attorney. So you had a system where a special needs child was not necessarily entitled to an attorney, but yet the parents were, and some of these proceedings, unfortunately, are adversarial in their nature. So when I heard about the bill, I was very excited to undertake it. I thought, okay, this is a good idea. We'll move forward with it. At the time, it came with a $1.5 million budget request. Representative Fresen carried it in the House of Representatives. I was, at that time, chairman of Education Appropriations in the Senate, and Fresen was chairman of Education in the House. So I'm driving to Tallahassee about the start of session, and I get a call from the chair of Judiciary. And I didn't text Nancy, I called. And the message was simply, this, it looks like a good idea, but this is just, I don't see it happening this session. So I said, hold on. So we pull over to a rest area. I said, okay, let's get staff on the phone. Let's start hammering out the issues with this. And really an hour on the side of I-75. And in fact, a lot of politics occur on the side of I-75. A lot of other things too, but that's for a different meeting. But it was that important that I felt like this couldn't be, okay, we gave it the old try. We had to get this thing done. And to the chair's credit, we went through and we addressed the various issues enough to get a commitment there at exit 274 that it would be on the agenda and was still moving in the House. And from there, we were able to continue to work on the bill, make sure the main thrust of it remained intact, and then at the same time simultaneously work on the funding. And we were able to get it little by little through the process. Now, there was something special that happened to this bill that has never really happened to any bill in my experience. If you recall, the bill came with $5 million in appropriation. And I just told you that the initial ask was about 1.5. Well, Senate President Don Gates, who I respect immensely and someone that I enjoyed serving with for the last 2 years as my Senate President, and actually the sponsor of the amendment that named the Foster Care Act after Senator Dietert, met with me. And he said, you know, I'm very happy with the way everything's going in education, the way we put things together. And he's a big proponent of education performance, and we did performance funding. He's a proponent of alternatives. We did industry certifications, and he's a proponent of career and professional education. We got all of that done. He said, what is it that I can do for you? And I said, Mr. President, we have this bill. I said, you're aware of it, and presidents are usually aware of any bill that's moving at least. And I said, I want to make sure that we're not going in half-cocked, that we're not going in with not enough dollars, or that we don't end up having a situation like I just described with the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, that if we're in, and we're in all the way. And he said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, it means about $4.5 million. And he said, okay, well, let me think about it. We're going to go into conference, and the rest you know. It came out with 4.5. And I was so pleased, actually 5, but the 4.5 was new. And I was so pleased to be able to go back and say, okay, well, here was the initial ask, and we actually had more dollars going in. But I think the membership respected the fact that we broke it down in terms of having first pro bono opportunities, having attorneys that are doing yeoman's work already get the first ask, and that we were only bringing in the state dollars in order to fill gaps where these young people were not able to have an attorney but for these dollars. And also the training aspect that went along with it. I think that was very important as well. But this is just a starting point. I think there continues to be a need to work in this area, and maybe we're going to expand those classes. I haven't filed anything yet, but maybe we will. We'll look at that and see what we can do. Because work in the area of children and families, and especially with regard to foster children, is never finished. Governor Bush used to say, you don't reform and then put a period after it. Reform never ends. If you're reforming, it has to go on and on and on and on, and you have to ask yourself today, is what I did yesterday still adequate? Does it still work? Am I just resting on my laurels, or do we need to go forward? I'm excited because the economy continues to get better, which for us means more dollars in revenue to the state of Florida that we will have to prioritize on these very, very important issues, and which we will continue to do. And I promise you that I will continue to prioritize that. I, like you, want to be an advocate, and will work with you to do so. And like I said when I began, stay involved, keep doing what you're doing, let your voice be heard. And that's how you have people like Senator Johnson, Senator Dietert, and myself in this room. And we will take the conversations that we had right here and now with us back to Tallahassee. And then finally, the fundraising. How often does the keynote give the pitch? But I know from my experience in politics, it's something, it's not your favorite thing to do. I don't enjoy it, but you have to do it. If you're going to be able to have, as we say in the business, stroke, you're going to have to get people to stroke some checks. And so let me do this for you today. I'm going to commit $1,000 from my political committee right here, right now, to your fundraising efforts at this this luncheon. And so, with the proviso that that's the minimum contribution from everyone. So, but it is that important. And people can speak, they could talk, and they can say what they want, but until you actually put some fuel in the car, it's not going anywhere. So I'm happy to do that. It's certainly an honor for me to have been asked to speak with you a little bit here this afternoon. And again, thank you for what you do. You inspire me. Bye-bye.
Great word, Senator. We appreciate it. My name is Alan Abramowitz. I am the Executive Director for the statewide Guardian Ad Litem program. My two main jobs I consider is, first of all, to support the staff and volunteers in every way I can. My office is in Tallahassee, and I know the work gets done in the community, and you have a great leader here in Kathy. So that is my primary job, to help you in any way I can. My second job is I am a volunteer also. I work on a 17-year-old child's case in Tallahassee, and he drives really well now. We drive together once a week for about an hour, and he's a great driver. He drives better than my kids, actually. But it's exciting to be in my role because as of today, I looked last night, in the state of Florida, we have 9,650 volunteers certified that can work on children's cases in the state. The most it's ever been. And right here in this community, we have over 400 volunteers. And I would like to make special mention of the vital work of Children's Guardian Fund. We truly have a public-private partnership second to none. So I do appreciate it, the board here, and what you all do for children to help these children get positive outcomes, to get volunteers, and to have their needs met. Great legislative session. They embraced our program to help children. They know the passion you have and passed great laws so our volunteers can do what they do best and advocate for children. Such things as increased budget so more kids can have a guardian ad litem, expanded foster care to 21, normalcy for kids, which a month ago the federal government passed normalcy law modeled after Florida legislation, expanded the focus on children with disabilities and special needs. And Senator Galvano, when you talk about focusing on the most vulnerable, what you did was focus on the most vulnerable of the most vulnerable, and we appreciate it. And I was told by a number of people it was the first bill involving attorneys for children that the Guardian ad litem supported because it was well crafted, and especially sections about the pro bono, trying to seek pro bonos, because attorneys want to make a difference too. And I would like to tell you that 2 weeks ago we announced the first position that their job is to recruit pro bono attorneys around the state. I now have the honor of recognizing a champion for children. Giving, caring, protecting, advocating, listening. These are some of the words that describe the spirit of the Guardian ad litem program, our volunteers, our staff, and the Children Guardian Fund. Each day, volunteers help shape the future and create hope for the children of Florida who have been neglected and abused. Their work with the Guardian ad litem program on behalf of children is a pursuit of the heart. Guardian ad litem volunteers and staff do not work alone, though. Floridians from every walk of life support their work. There are many people in the community who work tirelessly for Florida's children, and many of them are here today. Their work for children is also a pursuit of the heart. Without these leaders, the work of the Guardian ad litem program would be very difficult. the Guardian Ad Litem program has established the title of Honorary Guardian Ad Litem for those select community leaders who have gone to great lengths to support the program's mission and goals. Today, we recognize Senator Galvano as an Honorary Guardian Ad Litem. A critical leader, although we're often advocating in Chapter 39 dependency court, these children in particular often need the advocacy outside of Chapter 39 court. It could deal with SSI issues in federal court. It could deal with litigation in administrative hearings that have nothing to do before the judge. So this was a great opportunity. Some of these children, victims of human trafficking, need this extra advocacy, and I see this advocacy as complementary to the Guardian Ad Litem program. At this time, let me recognize a champion for children by recognizing Senator Galvano as an Honorary Guardian Ad Litem. If you could come up, sir. And I'll read the inscription. For being a wonderful advocate for Florida's most vulnerable children, your support and dedication is unwavering. The statewide Guardian Ad Litem program bestows the title of Honorary Guardian Ad Litem on Senator Bill Galvano.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. It means a great deal. Thank you. Thank you.
And just as a commercial, next year we hope to pass a law creating a process in Chapter 39 to create guardianships for those children that do not have capacity to make decisions for themselves. Right now in statute, there's not a formal process for it, and we're going to be working on that, because when that child turns 18 and has to make that decision of whether to opt out or in foster care, they need someone to help them make that decision. In fact, if we do not do that, some of these children will end up going back to their abusive families and be exploited, and other children will choose to be on the street. So, Senator Dieter, we have a lot of work to do next term, and I appreciate you, Senator Galvano.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank so many of you for coming out today. I say to the law enforcement folks that investigate incidences of child abuse and neglect, you'll never know the lives you save, only the ones you don't. Well, I want you all, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, but those of you that are here today, although you're not in law enforcement, what you're doing today is going to save lives. You just have to know that the work that you're doing is going to save lives. I think they asked me to come up and introduce these young people that are going to speak today because I'm a law enforcement officer, and although the senator said you didn't necessarily have to listen, you do have to listen, okay? I have a whistle and a gun, so what are you going to do? Okay. Today we have invited two young people, Tacinda Johnson and Alex Hernandez, to share a small part of their life story and how their Guardian Ad Litem and the Children's Guardian Fund have helped them out along the way. There are over 1,100 young children and young people in foster and state care in our judicial circuit, that's Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. When you meet Tacinda and Alex, you're going to see that even under the most dire of circumstances, with a little help, young people can not only survive, but thrive. Our first speaker, Tacinda Johnson, is 18 and lives in Bradenton. She completed high school and is now going to school for cosmetology at Manatee Technical Institute and plans to finish in August. Then she wants to go on to become an esthetician I'm going to be her first client because I have no makeup on, so she's going to get a lot of work on me. And dreams of working in a spa on a cruise ship. See, I could be on that cruise ship. I could be your first client. But this path hasn't been easy for Tasha. So let's welcome Tacinda as she shares a part of her story with us here today.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Tacinda Johnson, and I'm 18 years old. Most people call me Tasha. I have a sister. Her name is Raven. We used to live in Miami about 2 years, not 2 years ago, like 2005. Her name is Raven. She was 8 and I was 10 when our mother died. A friend of my mom's took us to Georgia and we lived with them, but the situation there wasn't good. After a few years, we came back to Florida to live with a relative in Bradenton. That didn't work out either. In 2011, we were placed in foster care. During the next 2.5 years, we lived in a girls' group home in Bradenton. On my 18th birthday, last November 17, everything I had was packed up and moved out of the group home into my own apartment. Under the old system, I didn't have a choice. When I turned 18, I was on my own. Now kids stay in foster care until they're 21, so they are more prepared to live on their own when they do age out. I know a lot of you would think that this is every teen's dream to have their own apartment, to live on their own. Believe me, it's hard and it's scary. Especially those first weeks, I felt alone. I didn't have the group home girls around with me. I didn't have my sister. It was just me, and I was in my senior year at Southeast High School. All of a sudden, I was responsible for rent, telephone, utilities, getting to school on my own, everything. But I had help from some important people. I want to say thank you to my case manager, Nikita Rutland. I'd like to say thank you to she was the group home mother at the time, Miss Karen Moon. And most of all, the main person who has helped me for over 2 years is my guardian ad litem, Miss Karen Hack. Senior year is important, and Miss Karen Hack made sure I had a great year. She put me in to get financial help from the Guardian ad litem fund, so I was able to go to homecoming. They helped me pay for graduation invitations, plus my cap and gown. They was able to help me get my senior prom dress. They paid for my senior trip to Universal Studios in Orlando. A lot of teens take these things for granted, but I don't, because my guardian ad litem and the Children's Guardian Fund showed me that they cared. I was able to have a great senior year, just like everyone who graduates from high school should. After graduating, Ms. Karen helped me complete my registration for MTI in August, and I started cosmetology class. I had to buy a $450 kit that no one could help me with. Financial aid couldn't pay for it. The coalition couldn't help me. I have a part-time job, but there was no way I could pay for that whole kit on my own. My guardian requested help from the Children's Guardian Fund, and they came through and paid for the whole kit, the whole $450. I could go on and on about many things that my guardian ad litem and the Children's Guardian Fund has done for me over the years. But more than just paying for things, they showed me that there are people who care and want the best for me, and other teens just like me. A really big challenge for me and other teens living in foster care is transportation. Living in a group home and then on your own, you don't have family, you don't have anyone you can borrow their car, or even someone to give you a ride. you have to do everything on your own, or even someone that'll let you drive their car. It's a struggle every day to get to class at MTI. Having a ride to school, which most people take for granted, is a big roadblock to my future. It shouldn't be that way. Sure, there have been some mistakes along the way, but I know just keep pushing forward and to never give up. I know that everything I have done during the last year will make me stronger in the future. I am still scared at times and feel alone, but I know I can do it, and I will succeed. I just want to say thanks for all the help along the way, and most of all for supporting and believing in me. Tasha Johnson, thank you all. What am I supposed to do?
You just stand right over here for a minute.
First of all, that was outstanding. Tasha is she's going to be 19 on November 17th, by the way, so happy birthday coming up. And she's going to take her road test to acquire her driver's license the day after. She's currently saving for a car to alleviate her transportation difficulties in getting to school and to work, and we have no doubt that this focused young woman is going to accomplish all of her goals. I want you to take a look at her shoes, too. These are some unbelievable shoes. She did such a fantastic job. Give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Alex Hernandez. Alex is 18 and a senior at Bayshore High School in Bradenton. Alex is here today with his younger brother, Ivan, who's 10. Ivan, can you wave at us? All right. His two sisters, Stephanie, who's 15, Stephanie, and Yesenia, age 20. So, Yesenia. Alex loves technology and is the secretary at the Bayshore High School TSA Technology Student Association. He loves to play the guitar and is involved with his church. He's got a lot going on. So please help me welcome Alex to share some of his story with us today.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexis Hernandez, and I am a senior at Bayshore High School in Bradenton. 2.5 years ago, my two sisters, my brother, and I were removed from our home and put in state care. My mother had a pretty serious drug addiction problem, and it made it hard for her to take care of us. And things got so bad that the Child Protection Services had to take us. At first, I didn't think being taken away from my mom would have an effect on me. I felt okay. I was busy in school, and the truth is, I was hardly ever home anyways. I kept myself busy in a club at school called TSA, or Technology Student Association, as I'm dressed right now. I kept myself actively participating in events, conferences, leadership conferences, and projects. But by the end of my freshman year, when I looked back at my grades, I saw how the whole situation with my mom took a toll on my grades. I went from an A and B student to a C, D, and F student in one semester. I couldn't believe how hard it hit me to be separated from my mom. So in my sophomore year, I started as a D and F student, but eventually brought those grades up to C's, then B's, and A's again. But even now, those low grades in my first year of high school have had a negative effect on my overall GPA. I'm happy to say that in spite of all the challenges that I face, I will graduate this year with a GPA of 3.5. In spite of all the challenges that my family face, we are lucky because my older sister, who was at the time 17 when we were taken away from my mom, was able to become our caregiver. So we never had to be separated or live in a foster home like lots of other kids in our situation. So the four of us lived together in a house. excuse me, ran out of breath. I knew this would happen. So the four of us live together in a house, and even though we don't have our mom to take care of us, we are lucky to be together. I am also lucky because the door was open for me through the Garden at Lighten program. My Garden at Lighten volunteer is Grace Jacobson. She helped me see all the good things I had left in my life, like my brother, sister, school, and other opportunities I had. She helped me focus on setting goals. She told me to keep myself active in TSA and keep my grades up. I would like to thank my guardian, Grace Jacobson, for her support. She treats us like her family. She takes us out to dinner sometimes and helps with little things, like getting my class pictures and even summer camp for Ivan. It's nice that someone out there cares for us and looks out for us. My family and I are truly thankful for you being part of our lives. Not only has Grace helped us out, but the Children's Guardian Fund has helped us in so many ways. They helped pay for my sister's 15th birthday celebration, or quinceañera. They also paid for my trip to Washington, D.C. to compete in a national TSA conference where I placed 4th out of 250 teams across the nation. It was my dream since joining TSA in middle school to compete at this level, and the Children's Guardian Fund gave me that opportunity. Right now, my older sister and I are a part of the driver's education program that the Children's Guardian Fund sponsors. It is a 25-hour driver's education course, and they pay for the fees for us to get our driver's license. Right now, my sister has to take the bus to go to work, and we have to ride the bus to go everywhere, to go to the doctor, to get groceries, or even to school. Everywhere. We spend a lot of time standing at bus stops, but once we have our driver's license, we'll be working together to get a car. It's not easy for us to live without our parents, but we are thankful that so many people have stepped in and helped us out. I'd like to encourage you to support the Children's Guardian Fund and the Garden at Lighten program. Without these programs, children and teens that are in situations like our family cannot accomplish their dreams and goals as I have done through them. Thank you for believing in kids like me.
Great job. Great job. That's for you, Alex. We're standing for you.
Alan Abramowitz, I think you have two great representatives that could go anywhere in the state of Florida and talk and do something to help out with the situation. So, wonderful story. Alex, he intends to be the first in his family to ever attend college. He plans to first get an AA degree in construction technology, get a job, and then go on to get a bachelor's degree in architectural engineering. We have no doubt that this determined young man is going to succeed in attaining his goals. Thank you to both Alex and Tacinda for coming here today to give us a glimpse into their lives and to share with you having both Guardian at Lighten and Children's Guardians Fund in their corner has helped them overcome some of their most difficult circumstances. We wish them both all the best. And as you mentioned, Senator, those tentacles of life, I think that they're well on their way to overcoming those tentacles of life. Thank you so much.
I'm very sorry for anybody who has to follow Tasha and Alexander up to this platform. But it is to help young men and women like Tasha and Alex that Children's Guardian Fund works so hard to raise funds to support not just the basic needs, but also the dreams and hopes for a better future that so many of the children in foster care have if they can only find a way to give expression to them. We are fortunate in this town to have many talented people who are willing to share their time and their expertise, their financial resources, and their hearts with children who are struggling in the face of life's challenges. It can sometimes be difficult for our organization to decide who, among so many worthy people, should be chosen as the Children's Guardian Fund Child Advocate of the Year. But this year, it wasn't a difficult decision at all. As soon as Joan Gaia's name was mentioned, our executive committee members responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. And no wonder. Joan has been helping disadvantaged youth in the 12th Judicial Circuit for 2 decades. During her 7 years as a volunteer guardian ad litem, she learned firsthand about the many unmet needs of children in foster care, and she worked to find solutions and resources. In addition, she has been a tutor, a volunteer for the Literacy Council, and a member of the Family Safety Alliance. With very little fanfare or notice by the general population of our community, she has personally provided housing to many homeless teens. Joan's most recent accomplishment is launching the Everyday Blessings Springboard program, designed to provide housing and support round the clock for young adults aged 18 to 22 who are either participating in the extended foster care program or for other reasons find themselves in need of a helping hand as they establish themselves in the adult world. It is therefore with a great deal of pleasure and gratitude that on behalf of the Children's Guardian Fund Board, I now present this Child Advocate of the Year Award to Joan Gaia.
I show it to you because it's all of you that have, isn't it wonderful? It's beautiful. I read once that the measure of a great society is how it takes care of its weakest citizens. And I've always believed that to be true. Since my days as a guardian ad litem, Hal and I started together, Judge Dakin and many others. It was challenging. When I had a young man, he was 6 weeks old when I became his guardian. When I left the program, he was 6 years old. He'd been in 14 placements. That shouldn't happen. I don't believe it does happen anymore like it did then. But it did happen to him. Tom Schultz is in the audience. He was the attorney for one of my moms. I'm happy to tell him that I follow what my husband calls my 3 favorite children out of the 35 that I had as a guardian on Facebook. They don't know that I follow them. They probably block me out. But one of them's a police officer. He was 2 years old when he was walking alone on the streets. He was 2, his brother was 3, and his sister was 5. She was taking care of them. They were living in the projects out on the streets. So they're doing well, Tom. They are in contact with their mother again, and she's doing well. So there are great, happy stories. We saw a need. We've had several duplexes for several years, and we've rented them out to young people that were aging out of foster care on our own. And then we became in touch with Everyday Blessings. And I said to Bob, we could do this project and make it even bigger if there was someone there to help us. I'm not very good with those phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. I locked myself out. We've already done that as parents, kind of over that. But Trish and Rich helped me to understand that with people like this could be done. And they do everything. They've gotten them driver's classes, they've gotten them tutors, they're just there. It's all the things that these young people talked about, what it's like to do it alone. We take care of our own kids. We don't get any big prizes for taking care of our own kids. We're supposed to take care of our own kids. But this is a wonderful community, a very giving community that has stepped up every time to take care of kids. And there's just continues to be more and more to do. So thank you for this award, and thank you for continuing to do the work that you do.
Thank you, Joan, for all you're doing for the young people in our community. And it does take a caring community to work with these kids. And there's one group that we haven't recognized yet, these awesome guardian ad litems that we've heard so much about with Tasha and Alex. If you're a guardian ad litem or have ever been a guardian ad litem, or after today you want to be a guardian ad litem, would you please stand? Thank you very much for everything you're doing. Look at this great group of people. My name is Wendy Cox, and I'm on the Children's Guardian Fund Board. I'm a guardian ad litem myself and an attorney ad litem. And I think you all know why I'm up here. I actually don't know why I'm up here, because 4 people have already asked you for money. Hal, Senator, Tasha, Alex, they all asked for your support. I think I can just sit down. But you have to know how to do it. So you already know what I'm going to ask you for. So now let's talk about how you can do it. And this is my favorite thing to do, actually. I've got the best slot on this program. After all the listening and lunching and learning, this is the part where we get to do something about all these challenges that are in front of us. And that's perfect, because I see a room full of people who like to do things. They like to get things done. I get things done by writing it down and making a list. Does anybody else here write a to-do list for today? Yeah. You keep it in your head, or you keep it in your purse, on the back of an envelope, something like that. Well, I'm going to help you with your to-do list, because we're just going to keep things moving here. I'm guessing that each of you wrote down on your to-do list today, enrich the life of a foster child, right? That's why you're here. So I'm going to tell you how we're going to check this off your list. At your tables, you have a Children's Guardian Fund brochure, which tells you more about the work that we do. You've heard a lot about it today. And you also have a response card with an envelope inside, tucked inside your program. And as a special gift for you today, you each have your own very own customized Children's Guardian Fund pen for you. So this pen will come in very handy when you're making those to-do lists. And in fact, we're going to put this pen to work right now, because you can also use it to fill in a response card or even write a check. So let's grab your pen, grab your response card. I know that tiramisu is just really fabulous. I can hardly stand it standing up here watching you eat it. So let's look at this response card, and I'm just going to pick a couple things out here. On the back of the response card, ways to get involved. So you can become a guardian ad litem child advocate. We have 410 guardians in our district, and we need more guardians. So if you are at all interested, talk to one of the guardians here. There's an information table in the back, and ask us questions about it. We'd love to have you become a guardian. Another thing on the back of this card is you can help us spread the word about these challenges, because not everybody in our community is here with us today. So maybe you could help us identify groups that might be interested in joining us in addressing some of the challenges that these kids face. And the third thing I'm going to mention, and this is the easiest option. I'm telling you, the other ones take quite a bit of effort. Our organization exists primarily to raise funds for these children, and you've heard about some of the things we're doing to fulfill specific needs that kids have to lead more of a normal life. So you could provide us with the necessary funding so that we can fulfill our mission simply by making a donation, and it's easy to do if you look at the front of your response card. So while you are admiring your new pens, enjoying your tiramisu, and filling out that response card, I want to give a shout out to another group of people that helped us to fill the room today. We have almost 350 people here. We have an honorary host committee chaired by Carol and Morton Siegler. And we also have sponsors here who have sponsored tables at the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze level. If you have sponsored a table or if you're on our honorary host committee, would you please stand so we can recognize you? We want to thank you very much. And I want to thank each of you who purchased a ticket to come here today. And some of you who are here today have been supporting our work for years, and we really appreciate your commitment and dedication to this cause. And for those of you who are considering a donation today, or maybe an additional donation today, I want to give you a couple of specific examples of how your donation can support these kids. First, look at your elaborate table decoration, which it took us 3 hours to put together this morning. It looked easy, but it was not. It's filled with school supplies, and one of the many ways we use your funds is to purchase school supplies for kids so that they can go to school with the same things that other kids have in their backpack. Inside is a sample list of school supplies. It comes up to about $100. So those are the tools the kids need to be successful in school. So a $100 donation would ensure that one child can fulfill his dream of having a good academic year. And if you're like Senator Bill Galvano, he's going to help 10 children. So see, I've already raised $1,000 even before I reached up to the podium, so thank him for that. And while you're working on your response cards, we're going to have some of our Guardian Ad Litem staff walking around the room and picking up envelopes. So if you wouldn't mind just letting them know you've got an envelope that is completed, they will pick it up and you're done with this thing on your to-do list. So I want to give you just a couple more examples of things that we have funded this year thanks to your generosity last year. So we had 2 young brothers who were placed in foster homes. The 5-year-old had a chance to play on the same soccer team as his 6-year-old brother. So we paid the $68 fee so that the brothers had an opportunity to spend time together doing something fun. Otherwise, they would not have been able to play soccer on the same team. You think, you know, how hard is that? Well, it's difficult if you don't have $68 to burning a hole in your pocket. In September alone, we funded swimming lessons for 6 children who were placed in homes with swimming pools so that their caregivers could feel the children were safe and so that the kids could actually go in that pool that was in their home. We helped a 16-year-old student who played saxophone, but she had to have her own instrument, and we provided her with the money to pay marching band fees for the year, which was $400, and $200 to buy a saxophone. So now she plays in the band with the other kids. Like many of your children out there play in the band, this child now can also play in the band. We paid $128 for a young man to take the GED exam so that he can have a degree. This is my favorite one, and since we're approaching the holidays, I'll just mention this last one. So this Christmas, there's a foster family who wants to take their foster child with them for Christmas to visit relatives in North Dakota, of all places, in December. And it's very expensive to buy an airplane ticket for your whole family, and they just weren't able to scrape enough together to bring the foster child. So their guardian made a request to the fund to see if we could buy this $600 plane ticket to North Dakota. And we came up with half of it, and they found another source to come up with the other half. So now this foster child is not going to be left behind. He's going to be spending Christmas with his foster family and their greater family. Unfortunately in North Dakota, but I'm sure it'll be fantastic. He can see snow maybe for the first time. There's always something positive. But we'll buy him a coat, yes. Whoever that guardian is, request a coat. I think the child needs a coat. So it takes a lot of money to raise a child, and that's our point. And the caregivers don't always have money for these extra things. And your donations is what makes this happen. And the Children's Guardian Fund exists to raise funds in order to help these kids so that we can say yes, as Hal said, to the requests that come our way. So don't hold back. Keep working on those response cards while you're enjoying your tiramisu, because you can check this off your to-do list today. You've enriched the life of a child. And I want to thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your time here with us today. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you especially to Tasha and Alex for sharing with us. And enjoy your dessert. Have a great day.